So when somebody says they think it's a bad time to buy a house, this would kind of help them go, wait, all these really smart brains think that over 5 years, on average, all of the lows and highs, they think that 5 years from now, home prices will be up 27%.
Correct. Correct. And I believe that. That's actually pretty moderate growth. That's 3-4% per year, somewhere in that range. It's not a huge move. And that seems to be about where we are. And this is national. We're talking about national numbers. There's nobody that does. I'm probably the closest person, closest thing to doing, local Albuquerque forecasts. But I would say we're probably in that same range. Albuquerque usually trends along with the national averages because we're just much more steady. So when you look at national averages,
You've got the highs and
you got the
lows
highs
and
and the lows, right? You've got what's happening in Florida right now, which is very different than what's happening in Detroit, right? So Detroit's a booming market right now. Florida's having all kinds of problems. So it, it averages out. And in Albuquerque and New Mexico tends to be kind of that slow and steady, or I don't even say slow, but steady appreciation. So I think we're going to be in that range as well over the next few years.
very interesting. So what's happening local? Do you have stats for that? I'm
Do I
sure you do. It's
do I have
beginning of the month.
stats for that? I did a video. If anybody wants to take a deep dive into the November housing market data, you can find it on our YouTube. I put it on my own personal Facebook as well, where I look at all the data, walk through all the numbers. But a couple of things jumped out at me, Tracy. Just a few things. Closed sales pretty much equal with last year. Not a whole lot of change. There were 716 homes that close in November. So people are still moving. It's not as busy as it's been. It's a little bit more than last year, but there's still activity. The number of homes for sale has increased. It's up about 19% from last November. Now we're at about 1,870 homes on the market. That's a snapshot in time, though. It's like the last day of the month, right? Because the number of homes active is always changing hour to hour, really. But it's a snapshot in time, and that's up a little bit from last year. But if you go back to 2019 November, we're still about 25% less
Right.
than that year. I'm going to jump number of homes under contract up about 18% from last year. So there is activity. There were 755 homes that went under contract in November. So again, there's activity.
Which is 120 more than last year in
Right.
November.
Right.
So busier home searchers, more buyers in the market.
More buyers in the market for sure. The number of new listings, and this is something now we've been talking about for a few years, is kind of sluggish. People just aren't listing their homes as often.